Good evening, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com here in the old home office / neuro ICU. This is your goldenblack.com rap video following Purdue's 64-58 loss at Northwestern. I did not go to the game. Obviously, Mike Carmen gave up his Super Bowl Sunday to go cover it for us in Evanston. I think I can say Super Bowl on video. If not, oh well. Thank you to the Purdue Club Hotel for your support of this. We appreciate it very much. I think that after games like this, just to start off, I think a reminder on context of this season is appropriate. Stuff like this happens. This has been a dream season for Purdue so far. Everything beyond any reasonable expectation has happened, and I think that 23-3 for Purdue is, a lot better than the way conventional college basketball wisdom and thinking would suggest this season would have gone for Purdue to this point. Purdue's still in a great spot to at least share the Big Ten title. I think that don't let the success Purdue's experienced thus far change the way wholesale that you perceive this season. And there were things in, November, December, January that this team just skipped right over. And I think now that it's the back half of the Big Ten schedule and things maybe get a little bit harder, I think some of that stuff is probably going to rear its head a little bit here down these last few games of the season. That doesn't mean Purdue can't beat any team left on its schedule. But it just means that these seasons are long and hard, and they're typically up and down, especially when you're young, especially when you have young guards. And this was an example of that. That said, this game was there to be won. Purdue had this game won. A couple different things go the other way, some of which Purdue could control, some of which it could not. Purdue shoots 6 more free throws in the last 5 minutes of the game. This game turns out differently, but, the game was being played in an octagon there at the end, and that never benefits Purdue when things are kind of allowed to go on that might not otherwise go on. So Northwestern ends up finishing the game on a 12-1 run to win this game, much to the delight of the broadcast team, which I thought was very strange. You don't see many games where the broadcast team is overtly rooting for one team over the other the way they were today. But be that as it may, I think that this was kind of one of those things that Purdue, just kind of tested right out of to start this season. And, it kind of showed up a little bit. I think that playing lead protection mode and the opponent speeding up the game a little bit, applying a little bit more pressure, not just in the backcourt, but to Ross-Ade, I think, was something Purdue didn't handle great. I'll say what I said in the last video too. I think, Purdue asks so much of Braden Smith from a minutes perspective, from a responsibility perspective. He plays really hard. He plays really fast. And you have to kind of wonder about him sometimes in the final 5 minutes of these games. And because he is human, and it is part of the human condition to wear down, toward the end of games like this. And I don't know if that's really been a factor with the Indiana, Iowa, and now Northwestern games, but it certainly seems plausible to me. I think he's still a freshman, so is Fletcher Loyer, and they're more than entitled still to have games like this. And it's more amazing that they haven't had more of them to this point than the fact that they've had any at all. That was part of it. I think Ross-Ade, didn't handle the pressure at the end of the game the way he's handled it all season long, and that's okay. When you're the best player in the country, you get up. It's not like they're going to cut you for having a bad stretch of play. He has been everything for Purdue, and he just made a couple bad decisions down the stretch. I don't know if Northwestern was throwing anything necessarily new at him, but I think Purdue got shook a little bit there in those final 5 minutes. But I think their poise, lapsed a little bit. That's an area where Purdue's been so advanced all season long. Maybe a little bit of normalization was always in the offing. I don't know. But just don't be a prisoner of the moment here. Don't look at this game as Purdue's enduring reality here. Don't let this one game change the way you perceive everything they've done this season. That's really easy to do in moments like this, and say Braden Smith's not this or not that, or Ross-Ade's not this or not that, or Fletcher Lawyer's not this or not that, when the reality is for 30 games they were, and for 10 minutes they weren't today. So Purdue's still in a really good spot here from a Big Ten championship race perspective. I think that part of the reason they're there is because of this winning kind of firewall that they've created all season long that really let them down today. I think that Purdue only getting 2 second chance points against Northwestern is an eye-popping statistic. Purdue, hold on. So Purdue shoots 36%. So there were a lot of misses out there to get. And whether it was Northwestern doing a good job against them, or whether it was Purdue just not getting the bounces, Purdue not whatever. That's been a really, really key element and a really consistent element to Purdue's winning formula all year long. Purdue did not have that advantage today, and when your advantages aren't your advantages, something else has to pick up the slack. And I thought in the first half, Purdue just shot the ball really well, and it kind of covered that stuff up. And then, once the turnovers really kind of started in that second half, all of this stuff became even more relevant. And I think that the box score doesn't always tell the full story of a game, but this one does. And it's only the bottom quarter of the box score here. It is the 22 Northwestern points off Purdue turnovers. That's the game. That is the game. That is the only stat that matters for our purposes here. Second chance points. This is mind-boggling. 9 for Northwestern, 2 for Purdue. Under no circumstances should that happen given the respective strengths of these teams. But it did. And, sometimes that's just the bounces of the game. Sometimes that's inattention on one team's part. Sometimes it's supreme effort on the other team's part. I don't know, but that is a bizarre world statistic. 12 fast break points for Northwestern to 6 for Purdue. That's simply a redundancy to the turnover statistics. Purdue just needed to take better care of the basketball. They needed to do a better job doing what they've done all season long, and that's maximizing possessions by hitting the offensive glass, by minimizing turnovers. And I don't see any reason to think that the final 5 minutes of this game or whatever it was represent anything more than a one-off kind of blip in that regard. I understand that the Iowa game had its kind of dicey moments. That was simply about game conditions. That was simply about Purdue being up big and having to just kind of weather sort of ultimate pressure. So I don't think this is any sort of turnover trend for Purdue. But the reality is that when Purdue loses, it's turnovers. It's almost always turnovers, and they need to just make sure they're on top of that. They need to make sure they're on top of the glass the best they can be, and I wouldn't anticipate anything different from that happening. So that's kind of what I got from Purdue's 64-58 loss at Northwestern. So thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials, however it is you process our materials. And thank you once again to the Purdue Union Club Hotel. We appreciate your support very much. I will talk to you guys again on Thursday night. Carmen will be out in College Park. For the Maryland game, I will be sitting right here, and I will do another video afterwards. I was hoping I'd be able to type a little bit today, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So thanks, everybody.